All right, everyone, this is the SageModeler platform that we're going to use to analyze our data. You may have used this platform before to create a model of your ecosystem. SageModeler is also really helpful for visualizing our data that we can use for our experiment. So first, we're going to go through the process of graphing soil moisture data and answering some questions to help us think about what the graphs show. Afterwards, you'll do the same thing again for one of the two plant species in our study. So we've uploaded the data that you helped collect into SageModeler. So when you open up a link from our data, it'll bring you to this page. So you can see we have soil moisture data, golden bush, and monkey flower. And you can minimize these or move them around as needed for whatever you're working on. So for now, I'm going to move my monkey flower and golden bush out of the way. I'm going to expand my soil moisture data. So here in these columns is the treatment. So where we measured the soil moisture, woody mulch, straw-like mulch, or no mulch, the plot that it was measured in, and then all of our soil moisture readings here. So to answer our first research question about soil moisture, we need to know which in general is the highest and lowest between those three treatments. And looking at the data here, as you've already thought about, it's really hard to say. But we can use a graph to plot all these points so we can compare visually. So first, to create a graph, you're just going to click on the graph icon at the top. And then to make a graph, we just want to drag the components that we're comparing. So on the bottom axis, or the x-axis, I want to compare the mulch treatments. So I'm going to take treatment and drag it over here. So now no mulch, straw-like mulch, and woody mulch are kind of in three columns, but there's no particular number here. But what I want to compare between them is soil moisture. So I'll drag that over to the y-axis. So now each of these points is one of the soil moisture readings. So really high readings are up here. Really low readings might be down here. And as you can see, each mulch treatment had some higher readings and some lower readings, but we want to know overall or in general if one was higher than the others. So there's a few different ways that scientists might come up with one number to represent a group of numbers. We might get the range, which is the difference between the smallest and the biggest. Other times we might use the median or the middle number, or the mode, the most common number if you have any repeated numbers. For our purposes, we're going to use the mean that we talked about calculating earlier in Project Crystal. As you remember, we calculate this by adding up all of the soil moisture readings for a treatment and dividing it by the number of readings that we had. So SageModeler can calculate the mean for us and add it to the graph. So if you click the ruler icon and select mean, then you can see it adds a line. If you hover over it, it'll show you the number. That is the average, or in general, what each of these points is. So as you can see visually, it is kind of in between. You know, it's brought up by really high points, but then it's brought down by really low points. Now, even with all of this variation, we can see which is overall the highest and which is overall the lowest visually. So this is the data from earlier in the year, but now it's your turn to create a graph like we just did together for your soil moisture data that shows where the soil moisture is the highest and where it's the lowest. And don't forget to save your progress. You can go to Save up here so that you can keep working on it if you stop at any point.